My back is a story in itself as well, with the Irish, the Contra Costa County, the women, the dope, fame, everything that goes along with it. My life. The hook is dope. Mom's lost to cancer, pops overdosed. I spit tears, my ducks dried out. 150-month sentence for nothing. I know what loyalty's about. Tempt once and get away, that temptation is there to stay. That very addiction has doctors robbing banks to keep the runners at bay. The same thing that made Casey Anthony kill her own daughter because she couldn't party the same way. Can it change? That's not for me to say. Then again, selling dope to pregnant women is murder I'm committing. Passing on advice in a criminal song, filling up lines in a criminal song. None is the best kept company, son. If you tote around pistols with intentions of collapsing along, 3 could keep a secret without 2 of them there. If you did it with them, better leave 2 more of them there. I'm facing life with an attitude like who cares? Question my mind, go back to the first few lines. My father took my soul, my mother took my heart. I'm perverse like Judas. The only thing keeping me from decomposing is embalming fluid. But I'm chopping with Big, listening to Pac. Got me ready to die, but I ain't been shot. So I'm taking chances, making advances. Death's around the corner, I'm dancing with it like this bitch is romantic. But what about the young ones or the unborn seeds? Will they be comforted by the biblical or the words of Jay-Z? The hook is dope. Mom's lost to cancer, pops overdosed. I spit tears, my ducks dried out. And that little line about my ducks drying out, my tear ducts, is so important in this whole song as well, because I feel like the criminal lifestyle, incarcerations, you become so used to people coming in and out of your life, or betrayal. You know, you got people you grew up with your whole life. You consider these people your family, and then they get knocked one fucking time, and then they snitch. So it's like your human's nature like protects itself. So instead of like continuing to be vulnerable, I let people in, but it's like with no emotions, if that makes sense. So at that point in my life, I was like, man, I'm pretty much emotionally numb. So that's why I say my ducks dried out. 150-month sentence for nothing. I know what loyalty's about. And that particular line is about a friend of mine asking me to go for a ride with them, and then we get arrested. And a lot of people would say, if it wasn't your dope, why did you take the beef? The way I grew up is, if you put yourself in a situation, even if it ain't your dope, you know you're doing wrong, so you're gonna ride it out with them. So, and that's why I say I know what loyalty's all about. Tempt once and get away, that temptation is there to stay. That very addiction has doctors robbing banks to keep the runners at bay. The same thing that made Casey Anthony kill her own daughter because she couldn't party the same way. And that goes back to what I was saying about the whole temptation. How you could have these people like the bank robbers in LA living a normal life, and they robbed these banks one time, and that temptation brought them all the way to their death. A little shootout in the streets of LA. And even the Casey Anthony story, this woman killed her own kid because this kid was preventing her from being able to party the way she wanted to, or to be with a certain guy that maybe didn't like her kid, or whatever the circumstances may be. But temptation is crazy to me. So that's why I say that temptation is there to stay. Can it change? That's not for me to say. Then again, selling dope to pregnant women is murder I'm committing. I mean, I would never harm a kid intentionally, but a part of me feels guilty because I've, like, maybe not sold dope to a woman that was pregnant, but I sold dope to women who had kids. So in a way, I'm kind of like taking these kids' mother away from them. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of crazy, because parts of me thinking like I'm emotionally numb, and then other parts of me feel like I still have a conscience. Passing on advice in a criminal song, filling up lines in a criminal song. None is the best kept company, son. If you tote around pistols with intentions of collapsing along, And here I break down my own faults, right? I'm critiquing other people's actions, but now I'm kind of like, I'm no different. So it's kind of like me not wanting to separate myself from the other people I'm talking about. 3 could keep a secret without 2 of them there. If you did it with them, better leave 2 more of them there. I'm facing life with an attitude like, who cares? Question my mind, go back to the first few lines. And I'm in jail. And in my mind, I'm facing the rest of my life in jail. I knew in my heart that I was never coming home. So the fucking only thing that comforted me was fucking music. My father took my soul. My mother took my heart. What I meant by that particular line was me and my parents were both real close. And then during my 10-year incarceration, I lost both of them within 8 days. My mom was dying of cancer, so it was kind of like I was expecting the outcome of her situation. But then when Tammy sent me an email through the core links and said call, which anytime she said that I knew it was bad. So then I called and she said my dad overdosed and was in some kind of coma or whatever, which was another part of where I say my ducks dried out. And because I'm expecting my mom to die, then my dad dies, and then I'm sitting there and I'm like, fuck, should I be feeling different? You know what I mean? I wasn't crying. It fucked me up, but it didn't fuck me up the way I thought it should, if that makes any sense. Like, I thought I was gonna be like completely devastated. And it was like, so I started questioning whether or not I was just like emotionally numb, which has a lot to do with what I wrote here. I'm perverse like Judas. The only thing keeping me from decomposing is embalming fluid. Acting like I'm smoking certain kind of dope, and that's the only thing that's keeping me alive, which at some points in my life, I kind of feel like drugs was the only thing keeping me alive, as crazy as that is. And then I say perverse is like fucking up intentionally, like Judas. And Judas was the guy that like sold Jesus out for 30 pieces of whatever they called money back then. So just the whole situation fit into my incarceration. Even after getting sentenced to 150 months, I'm still in prison behaving the same way I did that got me to prison in the first place. But I'm chopping with Big, listening to Pac, got me ready to die, but I ain't been shot. So I'm taking chances, making advances. Death's around the corner, I'm dancing with it like this bitch is romantic. I bring up Biggie and Pac because aside from Mac Dre, Biggie and Pac were probably the biggest influences on my taste in music and my love for music. And how they died young, it's like basically, in my opinion, if you're emotionally numb, you're kind of not living. So I know it's not the same as comparing people to lost their lives, but to me, how I felt was like I wasn't living. So I was comparing how I felt to their deaths, if that makes sense. But what about the young ones or the unborn seeds? Will they be comforted by the biblical or the words of Jay-Z? And how I compare like the youth listening more so to people's music than the Bible. And that's how I was growing up, and how music has been more of an impact on my life than any Bibles ever have. You know what I mean? And it's like a lot of times while incarcerated, people will say, well, the Bible helped me get through the hardest part of my life. But music helped me through so much of like the hardest parts of my life. So that's where the whole comparing the biblical to Jay-Z, because I feel like music is my life. So